Apple's iPhone 14 Pro is said to be the phone that could shake up the iPhone range by potentially bringing in a notably different design from the iPhone 13 Pro. So far, the rumors have hinted at everything from the death of the notch to the return of Touch ID. This is probably well overdue. As good as the iPhone 13 Pro is, it's arguably not a definitive upgrade over its predecessor, and overall the iPhone hasn't taken a huge leap forward since the iPhone 11 Pro. iPhone 14 Pro design. Tipster John Prosser has showcased a suite of renders supposedly based on leaked information which reveal possible big changes for the iPhone 14 Pro. Prosser's renders show a trio of cameras flush with the iPhone 14 Pro's back, but if that sounds nice, you might be disappointed by some rival that show the iPhone 14 Pro models looking a lot like their iPhone 13 counterparts. The raised camera array is back and even bigger on the iPhone 14 Pro. The new phones are also rumored to be 0.2mm thicker than the iPhone 13 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max. Other reports also have the rear camera module tipped to get bigger. The reason for this, according to reliable Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, is that a larger module is needed to house a 48-megapixel camera. As a result, another leak claims the corners of the iPhone 14 Pro will be getting rounder to better match the curved corners of the new module. Perhaps the most notable rumored design changes for the iPhone 14 Pro is the removal of the now infamous display notch. Display analyst Ross Young expects Apple to offer a pill-shaped cutout for Face ID along with a punch hole, so there would be two cutouts. This design is now seemingly locked in according to rumors from Everything Apple Pro. This rumor are given more credence with what appears to be a leaked supply chain photo showing off the display panels for all four iPhone 14 models. Our best look at what all the design changes add up to can be seen in some iPhone 14 mockups posted by Alibaba and shared by Mako Takara. In the case of the iPhone 14 models, you not only see the two cutouts on the front display but the larger camera module. Takara reports that iPhone 13 Pro cases won't fit the iPhone 14 Pro because of that bigger module. Speaking of cases, a claimed case leak shows four iPhone 14 models: the standard iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Plus or Max, iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max. Not only is an iPhone 14 mini conspicuously absent, but it also shows how the iPhone 14 Pro will be basically the same size as the standard iPhone 14, which we'd expect given it's the same story for the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro. But the iPhone 14 Pro Max will be joined by a larger Apple smartphone in the form of the iPhone 14 Plus or Max. Aside from that, the rears of all four phones look set to be similar to their predecessors, with the Pro mode sporting a trio of rear cameras and the standard phones sticking with two snappers. And a fresh set of iPhone 14 Pro renders based on schematics really do a good job at showing off what the evolved design could look like in metal and glass. They don't reveal the surprise design quirks, but rather give us a good impression of how the pill and punch hole camera Face ID cutout will look like, surprisingly decent as it happens. There were some early rumors that Touch ID could make a return in the form of an under-display fingerprint scanner. However, the jury is still out on how likely this is. Analyst Ming-Chi Kuo reckons that there won't be an iPhone with Touch ID or under-display Face ID for another few years. This would have been pretty disappointing, as during these mass acquiring times having an alternative to Face ID is very handy. But with iOS 15.4, Apple has made it so that Face ID can recognize a legitimate user even when they are wearing a mask. It works remarkably well, meaning Apple may have bypassed the need for fingerprint-centric biometrics. We have only had one leak address the color options for the iPhone 14 Pro. A Chinese leaker claimed that alongside the familiar graphite silver and gold Pro iPhone colors, the new option for this year would be a dark purple. You can see that below in another set of renders, this one coming from artist Sota. In May, Mac Rumors summarized the status of iPhone 14 color rumors thus far, with the addition of the purple option the most radical changes. Otherwise, the report has the black, white, blue, and red options that make up the current iPhone 13 and 13 sections. The pink and green colors would be dropped this time around. As for the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max, the new purple hue would join silver, gold, and graphite as the reported color options. Both the Sierra Blue color available since the iPhone 13 Pro's launch and the Alpine Green version introduced in the spring would be dropped from the lineup. iPhone 14 Pro USB-C. There are rumors that suggest Apple would finally go the USB-C port route with the iPhone 14 Pro, and that would make sense as many of its devices already have USB-C connectivity. However, more recent rumors claim that Apple will stick with Lightning over USB-C but switch to updated Lightning ports with faster USB 3.0 data transfer. That comes as the EU moves closer to making USB-C the standard charger for portable devices like the phones. For some people, USB-C on the iPhone 14 Pro would be a must-have feature. In fact, the Lightning connector is arguably the worst thing about the iPhone, as it can wear over the time. This can make it very difficult to charge your phone. Unfortunately, Apple is unlikely to abandon Lightning unless it has to, given how established the standard and its ecosystem of accessories already is. Meanwhile, Ming-Chi Kuo predicts that Apple will switch the iPhone to USB-C but not until late 2023. If he is correct, and a new report in Bloomerang suggests that he is, it means we won't be seeing an official USB-C iPhone until the iPhone 15 arrives. Don't expect a big change in the number of cameras the iPhone 14 Pro will bring, as the Pro phones are tipped to stick with the standard combo of a main, ultra-wide, and telephoto array. Given how Apple phones regularly feature in our best camera phones lineup, that's no bad thing. But one leak has the iPhone 14 Pro tipped to get a 48 megapixel main camera, which could finally make a change from the 12 megapixel cameras Apple has used for years. While Cupertino's computational photography is some of the best around, having more megapixels to play with would likely give the iPhone 14 Pro more scope when it comes to processing light and details. We could be at a time where megapixels matter once more to Apple. But a regular Apple tipster has the standard iPhone 14 models tipped to to stick with 12 megapixel cameras, with only the Pro models expected to get a 48 megapixel main camera. No changes have been touted for the ultra-wide camera, but we'd surprised if some effort wasn't made to improve the field of view and help remove some edge distortion. And there's a scope for the telephoto camera to get a zoom boost, as an Apple patent points toward the company working on a periscope style zoom camera. If such a feature was going to debut in an iPhone, it could be for the iPhone 14 Pro. But to muddy the waters, Apple Oracle Ming-Chi Kuo claims the periscope camera won't appear until the iPhone 15 in 2023. The lack of a telephoto upgrade for this year could make the iPhone 14 Pro a real letdown. Analyst Ming-Chi Kuo claims all models of the iPhone 14 will get an upgraded front-facing camera. It looks like this will involve a new, wider aperture, a more complex 6-part lens, and the addition of autofocus for the first time. Together, this should allow the iPhone's selfie snapper to take brighter photos that are easier to shoot thanks to the autofocus, and that will be less prone to distortion. For more, see our iPhone 14 cameras roundup for all the biggest rumored upgrades.